Lift our fears, griefs, guilt, resentments, and anything else that can darken the day. Show us the glory in which we live and the radiance of your love and promise. Let it shine. Please be seated. I welcome you all to this joyous occasion. Those who traveled from far and near, and friends, relatives, spouses, Prescottonians, everyone. I would particularly like to make sure that you enjoy yourself during this next hour and allow you to come on down, invite you to take pictures whenever you feel that you'd like to. Try not to block our own photographer who would like to get a picture of each student as they go through, but fill in these spaces down here, and now that the graduates are seated, the rest of these seats are wide open for anyone who would like to have them. There are no further reservations. One program change, Assistant Professor Tom Palasotti is the faculty marshal today, rather than the way that you see it in the program. I'm not going to take the time to introduce the people behind me at this time, because each will be introduced in one way or another and it'll become apparent to you what their role with the university is. But it's my honor and distinction to introduce to you our president. President Tallman joined the university less than a year ago, and this has been his first opportunity to participate with us in a commencement exercise. So I welcome he and his wife Dee, who's sitting down here in the second row. Thank you for coming to Arizona and sharing this occasion with us. Without further ado then, I would introduce President Tallman, General Tallman, Dr. Tallman, President Tallman. Thank you a lot, Paul. Members of the graduating class, parents, other family members and friends, officers, staff, and faculty of the university, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I think that covers everybody now. I'm really pleased to be here on this special occasion at my first Embry-Riddle Prescott commencement. At the outset, let me congratulate each and every one of the graduates and their parents. You really are the ones who deserve our accolades here this morning. I know it's an exciting time for you for you graduating seniors as you embark upon your aviation career. As I recall, it was just about 40 years ago when I did the same thing, and it was a really exciting time for me. So I congratulate you. Today is also an exciting time for me because I am the new president and I'm sort of embarking on another career, and it's equally exciting. It's really a great honor to be here as the second president of this fine university, not only because of my love of aviation, but also because of the worldwide reputation of Embry-Riddle University, and because I like working with young people. In accepting the challenge of continuing this proud tradition, I know I have some pretty big shoes to fill. My predecessor, Jack Hunt, guided this university to its place today as the leader in aviation higher education. And I think that's something that we owe to him and to his memory, a debt of gratitude. Now, as we look ahead, I see even greater opportunities for Embry-Riddle to reach new heights. And I see my role as trying to provide the vision and leadership as together we try to take advantage of these opportunities. So it's going to be a challenging and exciting time ahead for us, and I hope that you graduating seniors will stay in touch with us and work with us as we meet these challenges. Also, as we approach the challenges of the future, I'm somewhat comforted by the knowledge that many talented and visionary persons on our Board of Trustees are there to help in a very active and a very positive way. One of the most supportive of these trustees is with us today as your commencement speaker. In December of 1981, Dr. Moya Lear was awarded an honorary doctorate of aviation management by Embry-Riddle. And in April 1984, she was elected to our Board of Trustees. And she's been a very active and supportive trustee. She has an impressive background in education, aviation, business, and service. Born in Chicago, Dr. Lear is the daughter of Ole Olson of Olson and Johnson, the famous musical comedy team. She attended Ohio State University, Pace Institute of New York, and the University of Geneva. She is the recipient of numerous awards. The Catherine Wright Award for Outstanding Women in the Field of Aviation, selected to the National Hall of Fame by the U.S. Achievement Academy, the recipient of the Woman of the Year Award in 1982 by the Travelarians of California, just to name a few. She, in addition to the honorary doctorate from Embry-Riddle, she has received honorary degrees from Northrop University in 1982, Clemson University in 1983, Pepperdine, and the University of Nevada at Reno. In 1981, Dr. Lear was given the title of Queen Lear by the producers of 60 Minutes when they did a 15-minute segment about this very extraordinary woman. Dr. Lear is the embodiment of the indomitable spirit which has made America great. Her contributions to the aviation industry began with her marriage to William Powell Lear in 1942. For 36 years she was wife, mother of his 4 children, confidant to Bill Lear. She shared his failures as well as his many successes until his death in 1978. His final project was the Lear Fan 2100, and his last wish was that the Lear Fan program be completed. Dr. Lear set out to accomplish that wish. She has served as chairman of the board. She participated in the company on a daily basis. In spite of occasional darkening skies and turbulent times, this remarkable person continues to fight on to see Bill Lear's dream become a reality. I could go on and cite numerous other accomplishments by this great lady, but I know you want to hear her. So please join me in welcoming our 1985 fall commencement speaker, Dr. Moya Olson Lear.
And I have a love story to tell you. And that's really the basis of everything that's happened to me is because I love my husband. And that's, that's what it's all about. I grew up in show business. I grew up in the theater with the stagehands and the acrobats and the dancers and the comedians. Olson and Johnson were a lot of fun in the theater. And it was wonderful to grow up. I had lots to laugh about. Yeah, when I was 17 years old, my big problem was getting my algebra homework in on time. Nobody knew anything about drugs and alcohol and problems with kids, in those days, 30s. And so, as I've grown up, when I met Bill in 1938, Hell-the-Poppin' had just opened in New York. And it was a big, big show during the war, when things were very worrying and people were concerned. It was a show of absolute nonsense. And it was the hit show in 1938. Imagine the scalpers were getting $100 a ticket in 1938. So it was really something very special. So Bill would come back to see my father. He had known him. And he was one of my father's friends, didn't mean anything But he came back on Christmas Eve, 1938, and I was busy getting people out front, getting hotel reservations, doing letters, wrapping presents, receiving telegrams, doing all the things the secretary does. And I looked up, and there he was. I said, well, what's the matter, you lost? And he said, no, I thought you'd have a drink with me. And he was all dressed up, black tie, and I'd never had a drink in my life. I was 23 years old, raised in Christian Science, and I called up the theater manager, company manager, and I said, hey, Danny, I'm going to go for about a half an hour. Tell Daddy I'll be back in time for Christmas. So I put on my hat and took Bill's hand, and we went to the Stork Club. Stork Club in those days was the elegant, in place to go. It had a big rope out front. We had to have a pedigree to get in there. And they said, the maitre d' said, Mr. Lear, we have your table, you know. And I thought, wow, that's pretty classy, you know. So we sat down and started to blast small talk. And I found out that he'd been served divorce papers for the third time that afternoon. I thought, what could he have done so bad that his wife would pick Christmas Eve afternoon to serve papers? So I didn't count the divorces or wonder why. I felt such sympathy for him. So anyway, we got in a cab to go back to the theater, and he held my hand. And I have been in love since that moment with him. There have been a lot of girls, a lot of other girls, but there was just one of me. And he came home to me. And there's a biography out now that was just published in November. It's in the bookstores now. It's called Stormy Genius. It was written by a biographer named Richard Raschke. Never knew Bill, but he's got a technical record down. He looked under all the beds and the closets and everything. He's got all the girls in there. There's a lot of hurtful stuff in there for me, personally. But what it did for me, two things it did for me. It helped me understand my son's anger, and all of us have problems, a lot of us have problems, with fathers and sons. I could understand better where that came from, and also it built a fire under me to write my own book. And I've been working on that book, and I'm going to get to it. Anyway, when Bill and I were first married in we had a whirlwind romance, right? We met in 1938, we got married in 1942. And it took me that long to convince him that he ought to get married to me. He said, yeah, but I've been married. He said, yes, but you've never been married to me. So, anyway, in the first couple of months of the marriage, he was getting dressed, and I was running around, you know, I was a bride. He taught me to cook. He taught me to thread my sewing machine, girls. He taught me to iron a shirt on a mangle. He learned a lot in his marriages, you know. So, this morning, he said, all my other wives used to lay my stuff out in the morning, you know. So I thought, well, I could do that. So for 36 years, I laid out his shirts and shorts and socks and cuffs that stayed in the collar and the tie and things, so he could jump out of the shower and get dressed and leave. So not long ago in Reno, he was shaving in the bathroom. And I said, honey, did your other wives really do this for you? And he said, 36-year con is what it was. But we had an absolutely wonderful marriage. Well, shortly after that, we moved to Grand Rapids. The controller came to Bill and said, okay, Bill, you better call a sheriff. You're broke. War is over. There are no more contracts, and you're busted. And I thought, my God, what does that mean? Do they back up a truck and load your furniture and drive away? Bankruptcy? He came home to me and he said, Mom, don't ever worry about bankruptcy. They can't bankrupt my mind. And that was such a marvelous statement, such a marvelous philosophy to have as a young man. You could not, that man was on top. He could take care of anything. He went to the 8th grade. That was the extent of his education. He educated himself in the library. He was fascinated with electricity. He designed and marketed the first ADS. he designed and marketed, didn't market, but designed and put the black box on Paul Galvin's desk of Motorola. Paul said, "What's that?" Bill said, "That's an automobile radio." And Paul said, "Oh, Bill, come on, don't come to me with your harebrained ideas. They'll legislate in Congress against this because it'll be distracting to the driver." And they did. Anyway, Bill sold his concept. I have two, I gave them to him for 70th birthday. 2 volumes, like old law books. I stretched the leather and put the red leather title, William P. Lear versus Inertia. And the first patent in the first volume is the one for that automobile radio. Well, Paul said 12 minutes, and I can't get started in 12 minutes. But somebody's coming to step on my foot when you've had enough. But anyway, we went through a marriage that was incredibly exciting. He manufactured transmitters and receivers and control systems. And anyway, finally, he read the newspaper, and the headline says, 707 streaks across the United States in 5 hours. Wow, listen, General Aviation is going to have a little jet aircraft to keep up with that speed. So he presented it to his board of directors when we had Lear Incorporated. It went into executive committee. 2 days later, executive committee came back and they said, "Hey, Bill, we decided you can't do that because the company is just doing great. You're paying off your investors. You're paying dividends. We're putting out autopilots by the thousands, and we're just doing fine. And so you don't know what you're doing out there in the airframe business. There's no kid out there." So Bill said, "Hey, fellas, you're mixed up. You've got ownership and management confused. You're fired." So he sold Lear Incorporated to Ziegler. He fired his board of directors. We took the money and moved from Geneva, Switzerland to Wichita, Kansas. And if you want to know a culture shock, you got to see it. Loved Wichita. Gee, we had fun because it wasn't the Beechcraft and the Cessna and those people. They wouldn't lend him a pair of fighters. They were so disgusted with him that, the smart aleck. What does he know about building airplanes, But the little guys, the guys that pump gas, the guys that deliver the mail and the milk and the grocer and the people behind the counter, how are you getting along? What's happening, Well, listen, just think, on 1 year from September 1962 to October the 7th in 1963, he got the bond issue established, the Lear jets built, and flew it. And when he got ahead of the engineers, he was over in a corner designing the 8-track stereo. A year. And then he got it certificated in 10 months after that. But that was an extraordinary human being. He was a fighter, and he knew what he was doing. He had an incredible mind. It was uncluttered. When he reasoned out a problem, he didn't get off. He said, I'm lucky that I'm not hampered by an education. I shouldn't say that. But don't forget, he grew up in the 20s. And he grew up in the industry. And he learned as he went along. And he told young people in Carnegie Tech and Purdue and Notre Dame and MIT, he said, when I grew up, I just grew up reading and going to the library and educating myself that way. You are so privileged to have an education, and you need it, because the industry has grown like this. And your education is so incredibly important now when it wasn't in the 20s. And young people, you young ladies and young gentlemen, you don't know what you can do. You don't know what your capacity is until you've been challenged. You really don't know what your capability is until you've been challenged. I was challenged. When we got through the steam turbine, I can't tell you about that. I'll tell you one thing about the steam turbine engine. They aren't going to clean up pollution with the steam turbine engine. We put $17 million in that project before Bill threw in the towel. They're going to clean up pollution, but it won't be with the steam turbine engine. The autopilot, the Learjet. I'll tell you one more moment that eclipsed first flight when we just hung on to each other on the runway, watching everything we owned go up in that first Learjet, was the morning we went to the hangar and they had mated the tail to the fuselage for the first time. Up until then, there were engines, gears, ailerons, marketing studies, blueprints, engineers. What are we going to call this airplane? Until here, in front of us, was this beautiful airplane. Most of you have seen a Learjet. And we just stood there and wept. It was so great. So I actually have been in on the birthday of two fine airplanes. Our Learfan has been an incredible adventure. And I have to start it with Bill's last days when he had leukemia. And we had grown so close over the years. Our marriage was a love affair. We danced at Copacabana, at El Morocco, at Stork Club, at the Pump Room in Chicago. We flew all over this world. And we made love, and we had our children, and we had our home. And I was the mother. I handed in the flyers and kept the coffee pot hot, and took care of the guys when they came home for dinner. I went to the market, and I raised the children. So that when he said to me, Mom, don't let this project get away from you. Be sure that you follow through in me. The blueprints were in his hospital room, and, I said, oh, sure, yeah, I'll do that. With no idea that I was going to do what I was going to do. I mean, it was impossible. I didn't have the background. I didn't have the education. I didn't have anything. I was just a girl. And so I told him that I would, but I knew that I wouldn't, and I had stashed away enough sleeping pills just to pile on top of it, because I didn't want to live without him. Our 4 children were married and had their families, and there was no place for me that I knew about or cared about, because I loved Bill so much that when he was gone, my whole life was over. So when he died, and they had the funeral, and they had a missing man formation of Learjets fly over the church. It was an incredibly beautiful funeral. Everybody in aviation came out there and told stories about them. Cute stories, funny stories. It wasn't a somber, sad, heartbreaking funeral. It was people that got up and said, boy, Bill there was great. He did this. He saved my life. It was so touching. I went from there. I drove out to the plant, and I went to Bill's office. And I sat down in his chair, and I felt comfortable there. I felt more comfortable there than I had through the last agonizing weeks of him leaving us just inch by inch. And I thought, well, I'll give it my best shot. I'll try to see what happens. Well, what happened was, the whole gang that was organized and doing the job were comforted because I was there. I was their den mother. I was not a businesswoman. Shouldn't be confused with a businesswoman. It took a lot for me to learn the difference between debt and equity. And I finally got that straight. And I knew the difference between rank and cycle and rank and file, right? Anyway, I stayed in his office. I've been going every day since then. I'm at that office at 8 o'clock in the morning. The engineers, the pilots, they all loved to have me there. They wanted me to attend their meetings. I went to their meetings at 7 o'clock, their status meetings, where all the trouble surfaced. I said, hey, we don't have a flag here. So I called maintenance. I said, hey, Glenn, I want a flagpole right there. And then you run up, I called him Barry. I said, hey, Barry, I want a flag for the hangar. That, on my desk the next morning, I had a flag, and you don't run it up like an idiot. You call the governor and the mayor and the Marine Honor Guard and the high school band and the kids and, set a day, and I did set a day, and Barry wrote us a letter. And he said, "Dear Moya, today, for just another time in the history of men, the genius of your husband and my friend Bill will be shown to the American people. As you raise the flag above the hangar, know that with it go the admiration, respect, and love of millions of Americans who remember and will always remember the great contribution Bill made to our country and our way of life and peace." Bill he was an incredible, he was like a fabulous piece of fabric woven on an ancient loom. And it's multicolored and multi-textured, and it has a solid gold cord slashes through for just brilliant. And it has a little pure wool for integrity, has a little polyester and denim because he was so practical, has a little cashmere for gentleness and tenderness that very few people witness but me. And you hold it up to the light and you say, "Yeah, that's beautiful, but you've got flaws in there." Well, maybe he had flaws. Maybe he bent the truth a little bit. Maybe he was irascible and impossible and hard to deal with. But he was mine. And maybe he had a couple of girls beside me. And the way I felt about that was a little scrap of a song from South Pacific that says, "So supposing he ain't bright, or completely free from flaws, or as faithful as a bird dog, or as kind as Santa Claus, it's a waste of time to worry over things that he is not. Be thankful for the things he's got." I say this to some of the people that I talk to. Hang on to your marriages. Don't call a lawyer, before you get settled down. Ed Bradley, when he interviewed me, he said, "Well, gee, Miss Blair, you show a remarkable tolerance for this sort of thing. You just yawn and turn the other way?" And I said, "No, I didn't yawn and turn the other way. I screamed and hollered and slammed doors and wrote letters and packed my bag and got in my car and drove around the block." Because I loved him. I loved him, and it transcended all those things that you fight about. And he finally said, "Mom, you know what I love about you? You're so fair." And I was fair in our marriage. And I think that when you have a sense of humor and you respect each other, you'll make it all right. And just be careful you don't get married when you're too young. Just wait until you find that one you love, and you know you love her. You'll do all right. Anyway, finally, Lear Fan, we had first flight scheduled. Well, first we got the British to fund us, $50 million. Oppenheimer Partnership came up with $30 million. And we had first flight had to be in 1980, and we had to manufacture in Belfast, folks. But when you say, "Yes, sir, we'll manufacture in Belfast," we got $50 million for this airplane. So in 1980, December 29, we were going to fly first. So we couldn't get out of our own way. And the mayor and the governor and half the city of Reno and all the news media and everybody came out. Couldn't fly. 30th came. The ignition system didn't work. Couldn't fly either on the 30th. So on the 31st, we're getting very nervous, and finally at the end of the day, they did high-speed taxis and blew the brakes. The brakes got hot and blew the tires. And I thought, God, I'm too old for this. I got to learn the names of my grandchildren. I got to go home. And so that team worked like an Indianapolis Speedway team. They fixed the brakes and they fixed the tires and they got the airplane going. And the pilots got in the ship, and I said, "Hank, for heaven's sake, just take off and fly around the pea patch and land. That's all we have to do." So they got in this cockpit, and they did their cockpit check and accidentally flicked the switch that activates the fire extinguisher. And that put foam all over the engines, and that was it. They had to tow the airplane back in the hangar, everybody went home again, the mayor and the governor. That was New Year's Eve, 1980. But that gang checked their squawk sheets. They got the airplane fixed all night long. The next day, December 32nd, 1980, we flew that airplane. I thought I was going to die. They were going to put a bronze plaque on the edge of the runway. Mongolier, died here. It was an incredible time in aviation history. It's just incredible. It's built of all graphite. 2 turbine engines, 2 drive shafts, single gearbox, single propeller. Pusher propeller. Bill wrote a paper in 1954 about the pusher propeller and how important it was. But Paul's getting after me. I'm probably been up a lot. But I want to do one more thing for you. On the Christmas party, just before first flight, we had 800 people at Harris for a Christmas party. And I said, you guys give your prizes and your Christmas and give the door prize. And the door prize was a door, of course. And so I got up in the finale and I said, I want to dedicate this song to the real boss who's out there in that hangar working on his airplane. So I sang, remember now, this is 1980. If Bill could see me now, just think how proud he'd be, the way we turned his dream into reality. I wish that he were here to join in the fun and laugh at those who said it couldn't be done. All I can say is, wow, what a terrific night. As all together now we'll watch our Learfans fly. What a feeling, holy cow, you'd never believe it if my Bill could see me now. If he could see me now, my darling, dear, dear, and view the final chapter of his great career, he'd understand what all the shouting's about. If he could see the way his Learfan turned out, all I can say is, wow, to think it's really real. The story of just how we signed that final deal. What a feeling, holy cow. He'd never believe it. If my Bill could see me, if he could see me, if Dad could see me now. Thank you.
I'm not sure it's ever been done better, and I'm pretty sure it'll never be done better in the future. And I don't envy this next gentleman who's going to present the class's views on their time here at Embry-Riddle. But nonetheless, Brian, it's your turn. Brian Patrick. Just to prove that it's never been done better, that's not even who the speaker is. Now you get to see the glasses. Yesterday, on short notice, the senior class had to elect a speaker to present their views today, and I'd like to introduce him now, Michael Jarvis.
Morning, everybody. First, I'd like to thank Emma Coleman and Mrs. Lear for coming in here. Can you take that? And again for everybody that had everything to do with the speech or all this great ceremony and everything. Give them a big hand. I'd like to give a big hand to the graduates. How about a big hand? Oh boy. You know what I love about graduation? I love that song, you know, Pomp with 30 Cents. Well, I did learn something out here. Learn how to play harmonica. Learn what it's like to wear pants. Probably the first time any of you have seen it. Learn how hot it gets under Feeling McGee's house. How hot? Very inquisitive group. I suppose it was hot enough to cook small animals. I learned how to fly. That's something. Yeah. A lot of us learned that. Wait a minute. Learned how to fly out here. That was something. It was about a week after I got here. It was, we got rid of all the Grumman's and we had brand new Cessnas. Remember those? Clean, pretty Cessnas. The carpet was all nice and there was there was still tread on the wheels. And then, today, you go out there and see those Cessnas. They're still looking good, but those Cessnas have been around the pattern so many times that they think they can do them by themselves now. Now we just teach the pilots to talk on the radio to our towers just so they can go up and have the planes fly around with them. Brings up another point. We have a new tower now. So you've seen it. It's something else. First day I was out there, ready for takeoff, called up a Prescott truck, ready for takeoff. But that was nice. I don't know many colleges where you can go in and go out on a Saturday afternoon, get a plane, fly to Durango, roller skate into town, have a pizza, fly back. It was great. It's been a great time. Especially when we were living in the dorm. That was a great excuse just to get out of the dorm for the whole day. And those of you that lived in the dorms, that was an experience in itself. Remember moving out? Now that was something else. Remember the first day. First day moving out, getting your own place. And no mom and dad. And no dorm captains or RAs to ask you or anything like that. You can do whatever you want. You can throw your luggage all over the living room, leave your shoes in there. You don't have to do the dishes for a while. So reality knocks on your door like Bruce Lee and he comes in with things like this. And one of my favorite conversations with my roommate was looking in the kitchen and seeing this thing and so, what's this in the kitchen? And I would just go, oh, it's my macaroni plate. Well, what's it doing in here? Oh, leave it there, it's soaking. It's soaking since last semester. The macaroni's learning to swim. Now, that was really nice, your own place. You could have parties all night long and have girls over all night if you wanted. Getting a dirty look from a certain girlfriend here. But, well, that is if you could find some girls in Prescott. Now, this is not the best house, not the best place in the world for girls. Have some real good friends, though. That's a nice thing, and I'd like to say the girls are really good. Really good friends, that is. Okay, I'm going to get serious for just a minute here. Can anyone handle that? Well, I can't handle it. I have to deem this. There's no comedy, Mom and Dad, and I speak for all the graduates here. Moms and dads, relatives, boyfriends and girlfriends, people who gave us more support through these last years, thank you so much. This has been a long, long time out here. It's been a lot of hard work. And we've appreciated everything you've done for us, monetarily, mentally. Everything you've done for us has just been fantastic. And when you see these graduates here, you think, well, these people don't have the most experience in the world. They're not the geniuses of America of today. But what we have here is potential. Potential to be the best. There could be the next Chuck Yeager. He was the best. So was Babe Ruth. Anyway, we could have some of the finest here today. And I think that's what it's all about right now. Is we have the world in our hands. And it's all out in front of us. Open and free. We can do whatever we want with it now. And, what do you call that, Ollie? What has orange hair? What has orange hair, big shoes, and comes in a test tube? Both of the clones. Never mind. Thank you much. I'm Michael Jarvis, and this is the class of 85, 1985, December 14th. Thank you, class. Will the candidates for commissioning in the United States Air Force come down to the platform, please?
I, Thomas Donald Whitekin, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. That I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter. So help me God. I present Lieutenant of Marines Thomas B. Schweitzer.
All right. Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science degree in Aviation Administration please come forward? Lisa Ann Astley. Sandra Eisberg. Christopher Charles Chrysler. Will the candidate for the Bachelor of Science degree in Aviation Maintenance Management please come forward? Gary Dave Smith. Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science with Aviation Application please come forward? Lieutenant Thomas Donald Plankton. Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science degree in Aeronautical Studies please come forward? Adriana Erica Ayala. Melanie Ann Castleberry. Eric John Densler. Graduating magna cum laude, James David Frost. Michael John Halloran. Edwin F. Jago III. Lieutenant Robert Johnson, Jr. Neil H. Miller. William Andrew Wachtel.
Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science degree in Aeronautical Engineering please come forward?
James Mitchell Bowden. Gregory Sean Hogan. Peter W. Hurley. Todd Francis Peterson. Lieutenant Richard Philip Samuels. Neil Wagner.
Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science degree in Aeronautical Science please come forward?
Christopher Allen Armstrong. Diana Mary Bodie. Kenneth George Buckley. Charles William Duty. Graduating cum laude, Daniel Monroe Gellert. Stephen Charles Gibbs.
Gerald Glenn Gallahan, Jr. Hilton Oliver Holtkamp. Michael Edward Jarvis. David Cleve Jones. Eric Mark Lundstrom. Michael Samuel Morris. Graduating magna cum laude, Brian Lee Paddock. Christopher Carter Freddyman. Cody Wayne Ramsey. Brian Kenneth Ward. Donald Scott Wendy.
Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Professional Aeronautics degree please come forward?
Anthony Vittorio Carpenter. Marilyn Teresa Damore. Ernest M. Horn, Jr. Rick Riddell Wright.
Will the candidates for degrees please rise? Mrs. Lear, upon the recommendation of the faculty of the university, it is my honor and privilege to present to you the candidates for graduation.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you as appropriate the Associate in Science degree, the Bachelor's degree, and the Bachelor of Science degree, with all the rights, privileges, honors, and responsibilities hereunto.
Well, earlier you would have, had you been on this side of the audience, seen one of the most startled looks in your life when I announced Brian Paddock as the speaker. His name had been running through my mind because there is a special award which we give at each commencement exercise called the Chancellor's Award, and it's presented for outstanding academic achievement and campus involvement. And nobody knows who the recipient is until I make that announcement. And your name came out a little bit early, Brian. But nonetheless, come forward. You are the recipient of the Then it's been mentioned a number of times today, and in order to pay respect to a group of people that I know the graduates would like to, I'd like to ask the parents and spouses of the graduates who have worked so hard to help them in so many ways to complete this task at the university to stand up now so that we could give you a round of applause as well. Another group whom I know the graduates owe a great debt, and I certainly feel that same debt. Behind me, the faculty, if they would stand, I'd like to have us give them a round of applause for their... And if Associate Professor Tracy Dorland would stand behind me for a moment, I'd like to just announce to everyone here that Tracy, unbeknownst to himself and to most of you here, was selected as the Faculty Member of the Year for 1985. And then finally, before we wind things up here, I want to make sure that you understand that we have a reception down at the cafeteria, and it is for you, everyone who is here, so we would love to have you all come down, give us the opportunity to meet and talk with you on a more personal basis. It's sponsored by the Women's Club of the university here at Prescott, and we dearly would love to see you there. Please stand for the benediction. Our Father, we humbly bow our heads as this is the close of our formal education. We thank you for the blessings of health and integrity
which were necessary to attain our graduation. Father, teach us virtue, knowledge, temperance, patience, charity, and humility. Above all, teach us kindness, which is the language the deaf can hear and the dumb can understand. Help us turn our hearts from hatred, for it is a luxury we cannot afford. Today is a golden tomorrow and a dream of yesterday. We pray for guidance over the obstacles placed before us. Let our hearts not be set upon material possessions, but upon things which bring lasting happiness. We know it is in serving others that true happiness can be found. Father, let us work every day as if it were the first, yet tenderly treat the lives that we touch as if they will all end at midnight. We ask that we may know the meaning of peace as we journey quietly on our pathway to forever. Amen.